Hello everyone, welcome to week 12. We will begin the final exams very soon, and then we'll be finished with this semester. This week we are going to review Unit 3 and Unit 4. Next week we are going to have a synthesis lesson to incorporate what we learned, and then we will begin the final exams. Are you excited to finish the semester? Me too! All right, let's begin the review of Unit 3 and Unit 4. Let's start with a review of the topics in each unit. In Unit 3, we focused on culture and tradition. In 3A, we focused on an aspect of American culture, which is cowboy culture. And we also talked about cowboy culture that exists in another country that borders America. Can you remember which country it was? In Unit 3B, we started to talk about music and how music can incorporate our culture too. In Unit 4, we talked about water. In the past, we have talked about being green, how to preserve the environment through our habits or through our diet. Now, we focused on water, the blue parts of our planet. In Unit 4A, we learned about dams, especially the Three Gorges Dam, how it was built, and why they use it. Then in 4B, we talked about uses for water in Australia. How do they use it, and how do they decide who should get the water? Now, let's review our vocabulary. We'll start with Unit 3A. Take a look at this fill-in-the-blank sentence. Can you remember the words? The cowboy lifestyle and are starting to, Let's look at some pictures. That might help you remember. Let's look at them again. The cowboy lifestyle and are starting to. Let's check the answer. The traditional cowboy lifestyle and customs are starting to disappear. So take a look at traditional. Traditional means something that we have done for a long time in our culture. Here we can see a traditional Korean wedding. Next, customs. Customs are the habits or the rituals that are part of a traditional culture. In this situation, we have an example of Korean drinking customs. And finally, to disappear means to go away. Let's look at the next sentence. We must the habitats of animals. This is the key to their survival. Don't know the answers? Let's look at the pictures. We must the habitats of animals. This is the key to their survival. Here are the pictures again. We have some pickles, a polar bear, and a couch potato who's smoking cigarettes and eating fast food. The answer is we must preserve the habitats of endangered animals. This is the key factor to their survival. To preserve is to save something. Endangered animals are animals that have almost disappeared. And a factor is something that causes a situation. In this example, cigarettes and fast food are factors of bad health. Let's look at the next sentence. Scientists that 20% of the Amazon forest is already destroyed. However, humans are the forest into farmland. This one is a little tough. Let's look at the pictures. Here are the pictures again. Can you figure out the answer? Let's check. Scientists estimate that 20% of the Amazon forest region is already destroyed. However, humans are still developing the forest into farmland. All right. Number 1, estimate. To estimate means to make a guess. Region. A region is an area of a country or a city or anywhere on a map. So, for example, Canada has 5 main regions: the North, the Middle West, Center, Quebec, and Atlantic Canada. Still, they are continuing to do something. And developing means to grow or change over time. All right, now let's talk about the listening part. In this unit, we learned about the lives of 2 young modern cowboys from Mexico and America. Can you remember their names? And can you remember what is special about these photos? Why do they look so old? Okay, let's look at Unit 3B. Oh, sorry, 3A Grammar. So I can move this. Here we go. So 3A Grammar Review. We learned this grammar point that is used to describe actions in progress in the past. In other words, a kind of long action. And there were 3 ways to use this grammar point. Let's look at the diagram to help us remember. First, we have a long action in the past. Then we have 2 long actions or actions in progress happening simultaneously. And then we have an action in progress that is interrupted by a short action. Can you remember the name of this grammar point? It's the past continuous. And to make the past continuous, we need 2 parts: the be verb in past simple and a verb that ends in ing. Let's take a look at each use of the past continuous tense. Use number 1 is to talk about an action in progress at a specific time in the past. So look at the diagram. In 2003, an action was in progress. Let's make a sentence with the past continuous. We need a be verb in past simple. She was. What was she doing? She was living in New York in 2003. We can also use the past continuous to talk about 2 actions in progress at the same time. He was watching TV while she was cleaning. Notice how they are both long actions. It takes a long time to finish this action. Also, when we use the past continuous in this way, we should use the word while. While 2 actions in progress at the same time. And finally, use number 3. We use it to talk about an action in progress that is interrupted. I was eating lunch when you called. When we use past continuous to talk about an action in progress that is interrupted, we must use the word when. Notice that the short action is the past simple. Past continuous plus when plus past simple. All right. Now let's move on to Unit 3B. Take a look at these definitions. Can you remember the vocabulary that matches each one? Try writing the answers in your notebook. When you finish, we'll check your answers. Let's check your answers. Verb to choose. The answer is select. Verb to tell what something is like. Describe. Yes, please describe this movie to me. Noun, a series of sounds. Remember, this unit is about music. This is a rhythm. Noun, objects used to create music, like a piano or violin. These are instruments. Noun, the words of a song. Lyric or lyrics. Let's look at the next 5 words. Can you remember the vocabulary to match each definition? When you come back, we'll check your answers. Let's check your answers. Verb, to use facts or examples to explain your idea. Explain. Verb, to discover the similarities or differences between two things. Compare. Now pay close attention. Compare can mean similarities or differences. The next word, verb, to tell the most important things in a short way. Summarize. Verb, to show the difference between two things. Contrast. Contrast is only difference. Compare, similarities or difference. And finally, verb to tell the meaning of a word. Define. We use a dictionary to define vocabulary. Now let's remember our listening section. In this audio, we listened to a student's presentation about Shikar Collective. This music combines traditional Roma music with electronic music. And we watched this very entertaining music video and listened to a sample of the song. In this grammar point, we learned about this situation. Maybe you remember these pictures from our Zoom review class. He is, and the roller coaster is. I'll give you a clue. We use this grammar point, 1, to describe how a person feels, and 2, to describe the thing that causes the feeling. Can you remember what it is? That's right. These are adjectives that end with ed and ing. He is excited. The roller coaster is exciting. Okay. There are some exceptions, though, which we talked about in our Zoom class. In these adjectives, we do not use ing. Instead, we use a different form. For example, I was scared during the movie. We do not say, I was scaring, or it was scaring. We say, the movie was scary. We were impressed by you. You were very impressive. I'm so stressed at my job. My job is so stressful. So, if you ever meet a word with these endings, you will know that they have the same function as an ing adjective. Now let's look at Unit 4A, Vocabulary. Take a look at the picture and see if you can remember the vocabulary that matches this synonym. Modern technology needs electricity to function. Can you remember the word? Right. To need something is to require. Modern technology requires electricity to function. Next word. To grow a healthy plant, you must give it sufficient light and water. If you don't, it might die. Sufficient, enough. To grow a healthy plant, you must give it enough light and water. Eco-friendly toilets use smaller quantities of water when you flush. Look at this picture. What do the lines tell you? Quantities, amounts. Eco-friendly toilets use smaller amounts of water when you flush. Next, many children like to gather stones, marbles, and stuffed animals. Maybe you did this when you were a child. I did this with stickers and playing cards. Gather, collect. Many children like to collect stones, marbles, and stuffed animals. Next, the department supervisor's job is to regulate the employee's work. And here is our department supervisor doing her job. She must regulate everyone's work. Regulate, manage. We might also call a supervisor a manager because they manage employees in the company. Next, my girlfriend's apartment is always very tidy. And that means this one on the right. Very tidy, very clean. Next, there are many resources accessible to students who need financial aid. Here we have another synonym that's used in retail, in stock. Accessible, in stock, available. There are many resources available. Next, sea turtles save energy by riding on the ocean current. And here we can see the current moving. Current, flow. Sea turtles save energy by riding on the ocean flow. Next, and Canada exports many natural materials such as natural gas, lumber, and fresh water. And here we can see the different kinds of materials. Materials, resources. Canada exports many natural resources. And the last one. It is a parent's responsibility to give food, shelter, and safety for their child. Give, provide. It is a parent's responsibility to provide food, shelter, and safety for their child. Now the listening review. In this audio file, we learned some facts about the construction of the Three Gorges Dam, which is installed on the Yangtze River in China. And maybe you remember how big this dam is. Then our grammar point. We also discussed this in our Zoom class. We learned about two kinds of voices, and we use this story to help us understand the difference between the two voices. First, we have a killer, the active voice, which performs the action. John killed Michael. Then we learned the main focus of our grammar point, the passive, the person who experiences the action. Michael was killed by John. This is the passive voice. Now our final unit in the review, 4B. Look at these 5 images. Can you remember the vocabulary words? Let's check the answers. Number 1, a place where we grow food. We grow vegetables, fruit, or even animals. We call this industry agriculture. Next, a place where we make something to sell. We call this industry. Industry is the practice of making products for sale. Next, we're deciding what to do with our time and money. We are allocating our resources. Next, an emergency, something really important, is urgent. And number 5, something that we see or feel or live in our lives is an experience. Let's look at the next 5 words. Can you remember the vocabulary? Let's check your answers. Number 1, something related to the home or to the house. It's domestic. Next, some kind of emergency situation is a crisis. When we do something really, really strongly, it is extremely. Next, when we have very little of something, it is scarce. And if we look at the green picture, green person in this picture, we can see a normal body weight, which is the average or commonly found body weight. All right, now in this listening file, we learned about the Murray-Darling Basin, which is an area in Australia. In the Murray-Darling Basin in Australia, farmers do not have enough access to water. Water supplies are allocated by the government to the cities. And we learned about how people use the water in different ways. Now the grammar review. In this grammar unit, we talked about some kind of word to describe the basketball and the tennis ball. Can you complete the sentence? The basketball is the biggest, and the tennis ball is the smallest. These words are superlative adjectives. Superlative adjectives describe a noun that is the most of something, the most big or the most small. But we use est to create this adjective. Biggest, smallest. There are many spelling rules for superlative adjectives. We can see the rules here in this table. First, the most basic kind of superlative adjective. When we have an adjective that ends with one syllable, we can use est. For example, tall, tallest. If the adjective ends with e, we only need to add st. Large, largest. If we find an adjective that is spelled CVC, in other words, consonant, vowel, consonant, then we must double the final consonant and add est. Big, biggest. If the adjective ends in y, we change the Y to I. Tasty, tastiest. If the adjective has 3 syllables or more, we should use most or least. For example, most expensive. Finally, irregular adjectives will change completely when we turn them into superlatives. Good, best. So, some of the spelling rules can be memorized and applied to many adjectives. But for the irregular adjectives, we simply need to learn them by memory. All right, now let's talk about this week's participation work. For your participation work this week, we are going to have a review quiz on Classmarker. This is not an exam. This is practice. Your score will not impact your participation point. Simply retry the quiz as many times as you can to learn all of the points that we reviewed today in our lecture. Now, let's move on to the next important thing today, which is assignment number 2. I'm going to explain our assignment, and then you can begin working on it right away. So, I know that we mentioned that assignment number 2 might be solo work or might be group work. It was a little bit up in the air. But now that everyone is using Zoom and we're having Zoom classes together, I think we are able to handle a group project. So for assignment number 2, you are going to work in teams. Your teams will have 2 or 3 members that will be randomly chosen. You can use Zoom to communicate and record your project together. So, what is your project? You are going to make a group presentation Zoom conference, and you're going to record it as a video. Take a look at this screenshot. We can see all of the members of this group, and we can see their presentation at the same time. This is copying a group presentation that we would do in class, except we're doing it online. So, what are the goals for this project? 1, to practice using vocabulary and grammar from Unit 3 to 4 to present ideas, and 2, to present your ideas clearly in English. This assignment is worth 15% of your final grade. For your grading rubric, we're following the same pattern as your first assignment. You will be graded individually for your presentation, vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. In other words, all of your speaking parts will be graded separately. However, your PowerPoint and visual will be graded as a group. So, make sure that you make a very nice presentation for this video project. At the end, you will have a total score out of 15, which will be applied to your final class score. To create your presentation, first choose a topic from the list. Make sure that you talk to your group members so that you can decide together. All of these topics are related to Unit 3 or 4. Topic number 1. What are some traditional customs that are shared between South Korea and China? Discuss how these neighboring countries share some part of their history and culture. Topic 2. How does K-pop incorporate traditional music with modern elements? How does K-pop include international influence? Discuss the cultural significance of K-pop in modern South Korea. And topic 3. Because of climate change, water will become increasingly scarce. Luckily, South Korea has a reliable supply of water. But what about other countries? Should the United Nations be allowed to allocate South Korea's water to another country to help them? After you've chosen your topic, you're going to include 5 vocabulary words from Unit 3 to 4 and 4 examples of grammar from Unit 3 to 4. You can mix the vocabulary and grammar in any combination, as long as it is useful for your presentation idea. However, you must include different examples, so please do not use the same grammar point 4 times or the same vocabulary 5 times. We should mix and match. Next, each student must speak for 1 to 2 minutes. If it is less than 1 minute, it is too short. And if it's longer than 2 minutes, it is too long. Videos that are too short or too long will be penalized 50%. You must submit your project to WISEC. When you submit it, please include number 1, a written script. Please send it in a Word document, not HWP. Unfortunately, I am not able to open HWP files. And of course, you must submit the video file. You have 2 weeks to complete this assignment. Let's look at the due date. So the due date of this assignment is the day of the final written exam. Let's look at the calendar. Our final written exam will be in this week. This is a day that your assignment is due. So if you are in GED 100301, it is due on Monday, June 15th, before the beginning of our lecture time. Okay, other classes, please take a look at this calendar and take a note. Next, if you submit plagiarized work, that is work that is copied from the internet or from another student, you will receive 0 on this assignment. If you are late, you will receive minus 50%. However, if you have a reason for being absent, you can submit an excuse note with documentation. For example, a doctor's note or some kind of emergency. If it is approved by the YIEC office, then you will not have any late penalty if you submit within 3 days. So, how can we create this assignment? There are 4 main components to creating this assignment. So first, prepare a script and a PowerPoint presentation with your team. Next, after the PowerPoint is finished and you've prepared your script and you know what to say, you will meet on Zoom to record your presentation. On Zoom, you can see your face and all of the team members at the same time. We must see everyone's face. Use Share Screen to display the PowerPoint. So then you're going to see a PowerPoint and all of the team members together. Then use Record to this computer to record the video. You will take this video file and send it to me. When I watch it, it will look like I am watching your Zoom meeting with your PowerPoint. Okay. If you ever need help with Zoom or you're not sure how to prepare this, you can always send me an email. All right, that is it for this week's lecture. Good luck with your assignment number 2, and I will see you in the Zoom class. Goodbye.